guy.
Like, wait a minute. They discover this like mutated body that's smoldering right at the Norwegian camp, and the guy's like, get a shovel. By the way, that's a movie I love. And he's like,
I love that movie. There's nothing wrong with that movie. Find a thing that is, well, the first scene in the movie is like the best ever. I'm talking about the one with the dog that's running in the snow.
right.
And you're going, oh, that poor dog, they're shooting at it. Why would they? And they're speaking Russian or something, and or Norwegian, and you know, don't shoot the dog, the poor dog. And then the chopper crashes, and you are so relieved for the dog. And this is where I realized, I think deep down, that I was like rooting for the wrong side, because I just knew too many emotions, you know, were swinging. And then, sure enough, they get the dog and they put it into quarantine.
Yeah, smart move. After it's wandered around the camp all day.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's too late. I mean, the thing is there. It's in their camp. I mean,
right. Well, I love when they go to the Norwegian camp and they find that like burned remains, and it's like a mutated guy with like two faces like melted together, and the immediate reaction is, help me find a shovel, Doc. I'd be like, no, excuse me, McCready. This fucking thing is not getting on the helicopter with us. I'm sorry. Don't you see? Like, the evidence here is they've got several canisters of kerosene. They tried to eliminate this thing. We're not bringing this back to the camp, but of course they do, and it helps with making all hell break loose. But it's a wonderful movie, and it's one my kid has a really unique perception of. I've seen that movie 1,000 times, I think, since I was a kid, and I thought I had it all mapped up. My daughter watches it once, and she suddenly creates a whole new perspective in which I see it now.
And I want to hear that perspective, because
very interesting.
There's been a lot written on that movie. I mean, this is not a simple movie. It's about the individual. You know, when the group of them are all in the same room and say, okay, look at the alien is in one of us. We don't know who it is. How do we find out? They go, well, there's a way to find out. We all have to pass a test. This is such a paranoid moment amongst people, and it's such an example of our existential paranoia. And we worry about what the other thinks, and we worry about, is it in them, is it in us? And so they go about this process of bleeding into a petri dish, a little bit of blood, and then they're going to put a pin into it. And if that blood coagulates on the pin, you're just a normal human being. But if it's a hot pin hits it and does anything but that, then you're an alien. And sure enough, when they do that, the bug, it just jumps out of that blood, sort of jumps up at the pin, which is freaky. But it also, that thing just explodes out of one of the, isn't that what happens?
Yeah.
I've tried to block most of that out, but because it's so stressful. There's a guy tied down, they're all chained down. They get out one at a time, because one of them got like lines them all up with a gun. Okay, locks them all up. One at a time, they have to give blood, one at a time. And they're all talking about how it is freaky, man. That scene is so, and then all of a sudden that thing is shrieking and everybody scream, get this chair. He's locked up, and it's just chaos. I can't even, I think that's the one I have to watch again. I think
for sure. Work of art. And they're all, there's that added dynamic that some of them are tied down, so they can't react or defend themselves when this thing goes haywire and shoots up and claws itself up to the ceiling. But what I love about that film is the dynamic of the unexpected. Like, you don't know what shape or what capabilities the thing has when it reveals itself. And in this case, it's going to bust right through the ceiling and then come back down and split its head in two and decide to swallow a guy. And, that's where my daughter kind of chuckles, because she thinks it doesn't hold up too well. She's like, I know why they cut away from that.
Well, then there's there's one point where like the guy's head blows right off. Like his head comes off, it hits the ground, and it's like underneath the and then these little legs come popping out of his head, and like crab's legs. And then it starts wondering, I mean, it is at once funny, and it's bizarre, and it's horrifying. And it's like, oh my God, to end my life, to be at the end of my life, to have bunch of fucking crab legs coming out of my head, running around on the floor. Oh my God. There's
You
got to be a
know,
better way to go.
I love that they must have broke it down. And one guy says, okay, this is the scenario. He has a heart attack, and then boom, the electro shock pads go through the chest, and it's a set of jaws, and they snap the doctor's arms off. And then another guy probably walks up, or the same guy walks up to the storyboard and goes, and then once he's burned, his head melts off and creeps away. Like they keep adding, stacking elements to it. You know what makes that movie though? And I firmly believe this is the cast is so good in it.
Yeah.
Those guys 100% are so believable, and they sell it so well.
Yeah, it's true. They did. It was an absolutely great group of people, and the original thing was the same. It was a really great cast, and you believed everything that happened. And I think that anything less than that, turns it into just a bad horror movie. But man, it's a good horror movie. It's a real good horror movie.
Oh man, all the intrigue they create with who's it going to be, and I found McCready's jacket stuffed in his own furnace, whatever it is. Or when I left, I turned the lights off and now they're back on. There's a couple of moments where you pull your hair out because it's, not the highest IQs are functioning within the room, and it kind of aggravates you as an audience member. But you know what? The movie as a whole is just absolutely epic, and it may be one of the best movies ever made, honestly.
I think I might agree with you on that. The thing bursts open, it becomes all the things that it was. It goes through chicken, dog. It was once a tree. There's part of a boot that comes up. Then it's a human being again, part of a chest, and then there's an elephant in there. I mean, it goes through all these stages as it grows, and then finally it's there's a dog in there barking without any skin on his face, and then there's a human, and there's a part human, and that is they just really embrace that evolutionary concept in their modeling of the beast. I thought that was pretty clever. Whether or not you believe in the evolutionary concept, it certainly makes a lot of sense that the monster would have evidence of all the things that he was, right?
Yeah, that's one of the interesting aspects of it, right? There's like an identification chain, if you will, of what it's been and what it could be, and it kind of reflects that. And it's like a mixed martial artist. It can bounce into any previous form that best suits that moment in attack and defense.
Yeah.
But what I love about the movie itself is all the questions and conversations it creates, like the whole theory on who was the thing when and what killed Fuchs, and why is Fuchs working alone in the lab anyway, knowing this thing's running around the camp. And also there's the unseen, there's not the visual, but there's the feeling of a clock. Like you get the feeling that time is running out on them. Also an Alien.
Yes.
You get the feeling that
that the alien is growing faster than we are able to move and adapt to the alien. The alien is adapting and growing faster than we are. That's always an uncomfortable moment when the scientists lay that out. It was adapting to whatever was there. It was like consuming it, and then it was expressing it in however it then used that part of its genetics to, as you say, to fight better, to interpret more information, to be able to metabolize different kinds of energy to feed its brain. I mean, it's just really a horrifying concept, and I love it. It's one of the best things ever.
And what a remarkable dog handler they had on that thing, because man, those dogs, the dog or multiple dogs, probably that dog put in a great performance too.